What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be doing something a little bit different than normal. As I'm sure you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about Jedi Fallen Order today, and more specifically the comic series that's leading up to the game known as Jedi Fallen Order Dark Temple. Now, for those who don't know, this is a 5-issue miniseries made by Marvel Comics. It is completely canon, and it is pretty much just been made specifically to sort of promote and tie into the game releasing later this year. There is only one issue out as of right now, and for those who do want to read this first issue, I will leave a link down below where you can find it. If you don't want any spoilers for this series, then I'd recommend clicking off the video and coming back once you have read the comics, but as for game spoilers, there's nothing in here that's going to spoil anything within the game itself, so don't worry about the actual game getting spoiled. But anyway, the point of today's video is essentially just to let you guys know what we learned within the comic that could translate over to the game. None of this is by any means confirmed. This whole video is pretty much just theories and speculation, so keep that in mind. But there are a few things that I'd almost guarantee are going to be in the game, so without wasting any more time, we are going to get right into it. So the opening couple of pages are a little bit mysterious. The first thing we see is the second sister, which we all know is going to be the main villain, or at least one of the main villains, and by no means is this confirmed, as it doesn't really say it anywhere. But I think these first couple of pages are actually taking place within the time frame of when the game takes place, or at least sometime close to that anyway. Now, nothing too special happens, but essentially the Inquisitor just arrives on a planet called Ontotho and seems to be hunting someone down. She speaks to a few stormtroopers who are currently in the middle of a battle, and they tell her that one of the stormtroopers, who's actually now dead, mentioned that he saw what looked to be a lightsaber, and so the second sister is obviously pretty intrigued by that and tells the stormtroopers to cease fire so she can go and check it out. Her and some purge troopers enter the fight, and in the last panel of this page we see a dark figure igniting a blue lightsaber, which is the last thing we see before moving on to essentially the credits page on the next page over. So I initially thought that this was going to just continue on, but the next page over shows a planet called Namil, and as you can see it says years earlier. So we do sort of go to a backwards time jump to find out more about the origin of this story. Now, before we move on to the next part of the story, due to it saying years later, that kind of hints to me that possibly those first few pages were during a time closer to the time of the game, or even possibly during the game itself. The first thing that jumped to mind was actually that maybe that blue saber we saw was Cal Kestis confronting the second sister and the purge troopers. Again, that's by no means confirmed, but that was just the first thing that came to mind, since all we saw was a silhouette of a person igniting the saber, and so that's obviously meant to invoke some sort of mystery by then cutting away to a few years earlier. So I'm interested to see if we learn anything more about that, but at the same time it could just be literally anyone else other than Cal, so I guess we'll find that out in a later issue. Anyway, getting back into the rest of the comic, like I said, we are introduced to a new planet called Namil, which as you can see is kind of a forest type of planet, and we're introduced to the two main characters who are on the cover, which is the Jedi Master Eno Cordova and his apprentice Seri Junda. Now, nothing too much is happening in these panels, so I'm not going to get into too much detail, but something that is definitely pretty cool is that we do see some Trandoshans who are pretty much just having an argument with a different species. So again, that's definitely pretty cool. I would personally love to see Trandoshans in the game, as well as the planet of Namil too, because it does look like a pretty nice place, and I'm sure you'd all agree that it would be nice to get some new planets introduced throughout the game. Now, like I said, nothing really happens in these pages. There's pretty much just an argument, and then we see Seri make a little bit of a mistake, and her master says that she's far too impulsive and needs to control herself a little better, which is very reminiscent of Anakin and Obi-Wan. She gets into a little bit of a scuffle with some of the Trandoshans, and then it turns out that they actually did nothing wrong, and then this takes us to a pretty cool panel where these two are actually on Coruscant in the Jedi Council, and we do get to see both Windu and Yoda. So this confirms that this all took place sometime during the Clone Wars before Order 66. The council pretty much just discusses her mistakes. Master Cordova sticks up for her, and then they all kind of agree that she did make a mistake, but nothing serious came of it, and so she is let off the hook by the council. They then actually go on and give Cordova and Seri Junda their next assignment, and this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. They tell the two that their next mission is on a planet called Ontotho, which is obviously the planet we saw at the start with the second sister, and that they're to go there and explore a recently uncovered temple, which instantly triggered the alarm bells for me. For those who've been paying attention to this game on social media, you may have seen this cover of the Art of Jedi Fallen Order book that's coming out, I think sometime around the launch of the game, and it's pretty clear to see that this is an image of Cal and BD-1 walking into what looks exactly like a temple, or at least something similar. So these two could be linked in some way. Maybe this is the exact temple that they're talking about in the comic, or maybe there are just a bunch of temples throughout different planets that maybe Cal has to explore or something like that, because they do go on to mention some stuff about searching for ancient artifacts. But again, this definitely does feel like it could link together for sure. So again, not at all confirmed, but it does seem like this temple on the cover art could in fact be the temple on the planet of Ontotho where the characters are headed off to. Now, the first thing I noticed on the next page was that this planet of Ontotho has a sort of red or pinkish type of look to it, and one of the characters goes on to say that this is just the certain gas within the atmosphere. Now, take a look at some of the rock formations in the background as well as that reddish sort of mist, and then take a look at this planet that we see in the trailer. This was the first thing that I thought of when I saw this in the comic. I really do think that this planet that we see Cal sitting down by the fire on could be the planet of Ontotho, as those big rock formations combined with the red gas seems like way too much of a coincidence to end up being two different planets. I actually initially thought that this could have been Dathomir, but after reading this comic and then going back and watching the trailer, I'd almost put money on this being the same planet. Again, that is just my own little theory, so it's far from being confirmed, but my bet is that this planet we see in the trailer could be Ontotho, which hopefully we do learn more about, as it could be pretty pivotal to the story if this temple does end up being on the same planet. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about the rest of the story, but this planet, or at least a part of this planet close to the temple, seems to be really powerful in the Force. To make a long story short, they go on their way to see the temple and they get ambushed in their tank on the way there. They decide to hop out and search around this forest to see what attacked them, and both Master Cordova and Seri Junda mention that they're unable to sense things through the Force, not due to the absence of it, but actually due to it being so present and overwhelming. So maybe there's something about this temple that's really strong in the Force, maybe an enemy in there, or maybe just the planet itself. I'm sure a lot of you know the planet of Mortis in the Clone Wars, which is similar in that it's just really strong in the Force. So maybe there's a similar situation here, or maybe it says something about what could be in that temple. The issue ends as they walk back to the tank to carry on their mission, and it actually gets blown up, knocking them both to the ground, and then in all the confusion someone actually comes along to Seri and smacks her in the head with what looks like a blaster, at which point the enemy says, "I hope you were right about her," ending on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I am definitely interested to see what happens in the next issue. Issue 2 comes out in about a week after this video goes live. It's actually on the same day as the Felucia update, so that will be interesting to read for sure. Like I said, this was pretty much just a video thinking out loud and making a few speculations on what could transfer over to the game, and if you guys did enjoy it and want me to make more of these for all 5 issues leading up to the game, then definitely let me know, as I had a lot of fun reading this comic and trying to piece together what we might see in the game. If you guys did like this one, then make sure to leave a like down below to help support the channel, and also to let me know that you guys do want to see more of these Fallen Order type of speculation videos, as I have plenty more video ideas leading up to the game. If you guys do have any theories of your own, then don't hesitate to let us all know down in the comments section, as like I said, literally everything I mentioned could be completely wrong, so I'm keen to hear what you guys can come up with. If you are new to the channel, then feel free to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any more Star Wars gaming videos or live streams. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Crush them, make them suffer.